Revealed, how an incredible woman turned her life around after marrying the cruelest Earl. In the quaint town of Maplewood, nestled between golden fields and the murmurs of the river, Sarah's dreams felt like whispers against the roaring storm of her life. At 28, she was a waitress in a small diner, serving coffee and pie with a smile that hid her ambition's dreams of a little café where locals could gather over warm pastries and shared laughter. But the moment she said "I do" to Lord Sinclair, a dashing earl with an enchanting smile, her dreams began to fray, unraveling at the seams. Sinclair seemed charming at first, his laughter echoing sweetly in the diner, drawing in townsfolk like moths to a flame. But as they settled into his grand yet cold home, the charm faded, revealing a man who tossed around his power like confetti. Sarah felt trapped, the walls closing in, echoing with his disdain for her humble beginnings. Whenever she dared to dream aloud, casting visions of her café, Sinclair would sneer, dismissing her aspirations as grand delusions. With each bitter word, her heart weakened. Slowly, the town she once adored felt like a distant memory. The annual harvest festival loomed on the horizon, and yet she found herself tied to her husband's oppressive grip. The mere thought of the festival sparked a flicker of hope within her, a chance to connect with the community she loved. But Sinclair dismissed it, his scorn evident in his piercing gaze. "What would they want with your trivial little dreams?" He'd scoff. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as she felt the walls closing in, a spark ignited in Sarah's chest, an urge to push back against Sinclair's cruelty. Determined, she began to rally their neighbors, piecing together plans for a vibrant showcase of the town's strengths at the Harvest Festival. The laughter of her friends and neighbors, lifting each other up, became her fuel. It was as if she could feel the warmth of their spirit coursing through her veins. But just days before the festival, disaster struck. Sinclair, in a fit of rage, sabotaged her dreams, threatening to shutter the café she envisioned. Her heart sank, a tightness gripping her chest. However, as she stepped into the spotlight on the festival day, a rush of strength surged within her. The air buzzed with excitement, and the whole town had gathered, eyes on her, with the town watching, families, friends, even whispers about her estranged father hidden in the shadows of her mind. Sarah stood poised at the crossroads of defiance and despair. She felt alive, her heart pounding with resolve. Would she cling to the suffocating grasp of a man whose eyes turned cold as winter? Or would she step into the light, reaching out to the father she had lost in all the chaos, igniting a fire of change within herself and the community? As the first notes of music floated through the air, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to make the choice that would either shatter her chains or bind her tighter. The festival held the promise of everything or nothing. As the crowd waited with bated breath, a question hung in the air: would she finally take flight or remain a delicate ornament, breaking beneath Sinclair's disdain? The moment was electric. Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the small microphone at the front of the makeshift stage, her heart racing like the gathering storm outside. She took a deep breath, her thoughts racing faster than the winds whipping through the trees. The crowd was a sea of familiar faces, each one anticipating her next move with a mix of encouragement and concern. "Welcome, everyone," she called out, her voice a clear note amidst the murmurs. As she glanced around, she noticed her neighbors, smiling and wearing festival attire that made them look vibrant and full of life. It reminded her of the laughter and warmth she had longed for in her own life, a sharp contrast to the suffocating chill of her marriage. A mix of emotions flooded her: fear, determination, and a glimmer of hope. The entirety of her existence had been reduced to one oppressive reality, but this moment felt pivotal. "Today, I wanted to share something close to my heart," she started, her voice gaining strength as she leaned into the ridiculousness of the fear gripping her. As she spoke, she poured out her vision of the café, describing not just a place to serve coffee but a home for the community, a sanctuary filled with the aroma of fresh pastries and the sound of shared stories. With each word, she recalled the countless evenings spent dreaming at the diner, laughter shared over slices of pie and cups of coffee, the warmth that came from connection. She could see it all before her as if the café was more than just bricks and mortar, it was spirit and togetherness, the very embodiment of all she had lost and yearned to reclaim, and with each description, she felt the chains Sinclair had forged for her begin to crack. The laughter in the crowd lifted her even higher. People nodded and whispered to one another, their hearts ignited by her words, but then, a low hiss cut through the air, drawing attention. Sinclair appeared, watching her from the edge of the crowd, his eyes sharp like daggers. His presence was like a thunderstorm brewing on the horizon, threatening to spoil her moment. She fought against the instinct to shrink away, to let his looming shadow cast her back into silence. As she continued her spiel about community and dreams, the townsfolk clapped, encouraging her. Sarah spotted a woman in the front row, waving her arms as if to say, "You can do this." It fueled her spirit. "I believe in Maplewood," she declared, breaking the invisible barrier separating her from the warmth of her neighbors. The crowd erupted in cheers, drowning out Sinclair's scornful intake of breath. She could feel their energy wrapping around her like a protective shield. They were there for her, not for the Earl's reputation. As the festival unfolded, she felt more like a queen, taking a stand in a long-lost kingdom. But an even greater battle loomed within her. Despite the applause, she knew that Sinclair would not let this go unchallenged. The fight was far from over, and a storm was brewing between them, one that could decide not just her future but everyone who had rallied behind her. Just as the last note of her speech faded, she caught sight of Sinclair pushing through the crowd, a look in his eyes that chilled her to the core. "You think you can change anything?" he barked, causing a ripple of concern to pass through the audience. Sarah's hands tightened around the microphone like a lifeline. She realized she was at a crossroads where dreams and reality collided with the potential for all. With her heart racing, she faced him head-on, the crowd holding its breath. Was this truly the moment of her transformation, or would Sinclair's fury extinguish her flickering flame? "Enough," she declared, her voice rising above the murmurs. "I'm starting my café, with or without you." The crowd cheered again, but in Sinclair's eyes, she saw a tempest brewing. As the night danced on, she realized the battle had only just begun. What would it take to finally break free from the chains that bound her? And could she awaken the community spirit nestled deep within each of them? Before it was too late. The festival continued to buzz with excitement, the air thick with the scent of fried dough and the vibrant laughter of friends. But for Sarah, the warmth of the celebration flickered under the shadow of Sinclair's looming threat. She could feel it in the way the crowd shifted, their eyes darting between her and him, uncertainty lining their faces. Sinclair stepped closer, his expression darkening. "Do you really think they'll support you? You may just be a fleeting excitement in their otherwise dull lives." His words slithered through the cheers around them, cold and cutting. "No, Sinclair," she replied, each word firmer than the last, as if she was slowly building a shield around herself. "They see me. They believe in something more, something we can create together." The power of the collective breath of the crowd seemed to lift her. "Together?" Sinclair chuckled darkly, the sound grating against the harmony of the festival. "What do you know of togetherness? You've always hidden away, allowed me to carry your burdens." His voice dripped with disdain, echoed by a few scattered whispers from the crowd, and Sarah hated the ring of truth in his words. Had she really allowed him to strip away her sense of self for so long? But she could not back down now. "You're wrong," she declared, and her heart surged. "I'm ready to claim my place in this community. I want to be silenced." A strong wave of claps and cheers met her declaration, washing over the doubt threatening to drown her. The noise rose, and with it, her spirit soared. There was power in their unity. The familiar faces around her began to light up with hope, their belief suddenly palpable in the air. Sinclair's brows furrowed, a flicker of uncertainty passing across his face. "This isn't over, Sarah. You'll regret this." The edge in his voice was enough to send chills down her spine. But nestled within that fear was a small, shining flame of determination. The crowd began to move, a collective shift away from Sinclair as they rallied around her, eager to support her ambitious dream. Sarah felt the warmth of their bodies close to her, their spirits entwining with hers. She was no longer just one voice, she was the embodiment of their hopes. As they chanted her name, the rhythm of the moment pulsed through her, flickers of joy sparking within her chest. "I'm starting a café. I'm starting a café." Each repetition became a battle cry, closing the distance between her fears and her ambitions. But Sinclair's eyes burned with a malice that sent a clear message: he wasn't done fighting. "You think you can win against me? You'll see," he hissed and suddenly turned to leave, but not before one last shot. "I'll ruin everything you've built. You think this community will protect you?" Sarah felt a shiver negate the warmth surrounding her. There it was, the chilling truth that sank in: this was just the beginning. She had ignited a spark, but Sinclair's threat loomed like dark rain clouds hovering at the edges of the celebration. In that moment, she understood that this dream would demand more than she ever expected, both strength and sacrifices. Turning to face her supporters, she caught sight of hope and determination mirrored in their eyes. "I know I can do this," she shouted, the excitement spilling over. "But I need your help. Let's make this dream a reality together." A roaring cheer erupted in response, echoing her words back at her, filling her with warmth once more. They were forming a circle around her, uniting against the darkness threatening to invade their community. And yet, within her, uncertainty lingered. Was this the support she truly needed to stand against Sinclair, the man who believed he had all the power? The night sky darkened above them, but beneath the stars, Sarah's spirit shone brighter than ever. The first loose threads of her freedom had started to weave together, but the greater storm was watching, lurking, waiting. What unexpected allies or challenges awaited her just over the horizon? And could she truly inspire the community to stand with her, or would fear drive them back into the shadows? As the crowd encircled Sarah, their excitement pulsed like electricity through the air. Laughter and encouragement laced with spontaneous clapping filled the space where Sinclair had once stood. But in the corners of her mind, his words echoed, dark and foreboding. What did he mean by ruin everything? With her heart pounding like the festival drums, Sarah scanned the sea of faces eager to support her. There stood Mrs. Thompson, the kind elderly lady who ran the local flower shop. Next to her, Jake, a shy artist who had always hidden his talent under Sinclair's critical shadow. Their presence felt solid, yet doubts threatened to unspool the moment she had just woven so earnestly. "Let's talk logistics," Sarah said, taking a deep breath. Her voice steadied, cutting through the fervent cheer. "If we want my cafe to bloom, we need a plan." A few heads nodded. The energy shifted from raw excitement to shared resolve. They broke into smaller groups, buzzing with ideas. Hands shot up with proposals. A baker offered to create pastries for the cafe. A young mom, inspired by Sarah's courage, suggested hosting family events. Plans unfolded like flowers opening to the sun, revealing the bright potential waiting to blossom, yet, despite the enthusiasm, a shadow pressed heavy on Sarah's chest. A sinking feeling reminded her of Sinclair's looming threat. What would happen when he retaliated? The festival continued around them, fireworks blooming in the sky above. For a moment, Sarah closed her eyes and allowed herself to imagine a cozy cafe filling with the warmth of laughter, tables brimming with families, the comforting scent of coffee wafting through the air. "Sarah! Are you coming?" Jake waved excitedly, snapping her back to reality. "Yeah, I'm here." She smiled, but inside, the storm brewed. As they built their vision for the cafe, a tall figure appeared at the edge. Sinclair was back, his presence darkening the atmosphere. The crowd grew uneasy, murmurs rippling like a stone tossed in a pond. You think you can just waltz into this community and change everything? He called out, his voice laced with venom. A wave of fear rippled through Sarah, but she straightened her back. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to build something. Parents leaned protectively towards their children, their gaze directed at Sinclair, uncertainty replacing initial joy. You'll fail, and I'll be there to watch your pitiful attempt, Sinclair sneered, advancing further into the assembly. They won't stand with you when the dust settles. The atmosphere thickened, and the air felt electric. Was he right? Would they abandon her when the storm came? A part of her wanted to crumble, to retreat into the safety of anonymity he'd often cast upon her. But she couldn't allow herself to let doubt cloud this moment, nor could she let him ruin the flicker of community she had ignited. Is that what you think? She shouted, heart pounding in rhythm with the gathering crowd's breaths. You think I'm alone? You think fear will keep me silent? Look around. It's not just me trying to make a change. The crowd murmured, gathering tighter, a protective barrier against Sinclair's taunts. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, fists planted firmly on her hips. We are with Sarah. You don't get to intimidate her anymore. A wave of support washed over Sarah, a tide stronger than Sinclair's darkness. She blinked back tears of gratitude and weighed the power of community against the threats closing in. Together, we are unstoppable. Sarah shouted, her voice resonating. The cheers erupted again, echoing her strength, but the shadows stirred still. As Sinclair retreated, a newfound purpose filled her spirit. Yet she knew the fight was far from over, what other challenges lay before her, and would the bond she had formed withstand Sinclair's next move? As the crowd dispersed into jubilant celebration, Sarah felt the reality of the war she had unwittingly declared. Would she emerge victorious, or would she be crushed beneath the weight of fear? The celebration buzzed around Sarah like a warm breeze, but as the cheers faded, a chill crept back into her heart. Sinclair's words lingered, casting a long shadow over her optimism. She watched the crowd begin to disperse, laughter still hanging in the air but edged with uncertainty. Sarah. Jake pulled her gently to the side, his brow furrowed in concern. Are you okay? You seemed a little distant. She forced a smile, though it felt strained. I'm fine, just processing everything. This is a huge step. Yeah, but we've got your back, he said, his eyes shining with sincerity. With you, we can make this happen. His belief ignited a flicker of hope inside her, yet it felt fragile. Could they truly withstand Sinclair's threats? She appreciated their support but couldn't shake the feeling that it might not be enough. A thread of anxiety twisted in her stomach, tightening with each passing moment. Have you thought about where to start? Jake asked, tilting his head. Honestly, I haven't given it much thought. She glanced around, watching friends chatter about decorations and menus. I'm worried about how to protect this community of support in case Sinclair strikes again. Jake frowned. What do you mean? Sinclair's made it clear he won't back down easily. What if he spreads rumors? What if he tries to sabotage us? That doesn't matter. Jake insisted, conviction bubbling in his voice. We'll just have to be smarter about it. Together. We can't let him defeat us before we even begin. The warmth of his enthusiasm was contagious, but Sarah felt the weight of reality. You're right. I need a solid plan. But first. He prompted, eager for her next words. I need to talk to the others. I want a meeting, center it around our defenses, not just our ideas. His eyes lit up. I like that. Let us brainstorm ways to stand strong against Sinclair's negativity. Before she could respond, they were interrupted by Mrs. Thompson's cheery voice. How about a little café planning session at my flower shop tomorrow? Great idea. Jake cheered. We can rally everyone. Get them excited and in sync. I'll send out invitations, Sarah said, a flutter of hope igniting once more. As they discussed details, laughter bubbled up again, brightening the atmosphere. Yet, in the corner of her mind, doubt lingered. Sinclair wasn't he just a bully, he was a manipulator, and the power he held over the community was still a looming threat. As night fell, Sarah slipped out of the festival, her heart heavy with conflicting emotions. The glimmer of hope shone amid the underlying fear, twisting gracefully, but she couldn't ignore the storm on the horizon. Once home, she stood in the dim light of her kitchen, the quietness wrapping around her like a blanket. She stared at the walls, picturing her dream café nestled within them, filled with laughter, warmth, and life. But there was also darkness creeping in, threatening to snuff out the light she had just begun to kindle. What or who was lurking behind those dreams, waiting to strike? The fear gripped her tighter. Sleep felt elusive that night. With the stars flickering above, she knew she would have to confront Sinclair sooner or later. But a tiny whisper stirred inside, urging her to rise above all the doubt, to turn that fear into fuel. Because if they banded together, if they truly believed in themselves, could they weather the storm, the sun would rise on new challenges. She took a deep breath, steeling herself. Tomorrow, they would make their stand. What strategies would they devise to fortify their dream, and could Sarah remain strong when Sinclair decided to act? Dawn broke with a rosy hue, casting a soft glow on everything it touched. Sarah stood by her window, coffee mug cradled in her hands, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. She watched the world awaken, feeling the weight of the day ahead settle on her shoulders. Thoughts raced through her mind, ideas for the café mingled with worries about Sinclair. Today was pivotal. After finishing her coffee, Sarah rushed to her little kitchen table cluttered with papers. She jotted down notes, each scrawl a piece of the puzzle. She made a list of allies, Jake, Mrs. Thompson, and anyone else who believed in her vision. With each name, her heart surged a little more. They were a collective force. Together, they could stand firm against the storm. As she left her apartment, the crisp air filled her lungs. The streets were quiet, a stark contrast to the buzzing festival from the night before. She took long strides, determination building with every step toward the flower shop. The flower shop was like a sanctuary, vibrant blooms adorned every corner, their rich colors like a balm for her doubts. Mrs. Thompson welcomed her with warmth, her smile brightening the space. "Good morning, Sarah. Ready to bring magic to life today?" Sarah returned the smile, though a knot twisted in her stomach. "I hope so. We need to discuss some strategies." "Of course. Let us gather everyone and get the ball rolling," Mrs. Thompson said, her enthusiasm unyielding. One by one, friends filed into the shop, filling the place with energy. Jake arrived, bouncing on his heels. "Did you see the turnout last night? Everyone is so excited." "Let us make sure that excitement doesn't turn into fear," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "We need a plan." Sinclair sit quietly. "Right. Let us face this head on," Jake encouraged, clapping his hands together. As the group settled, Sarah glanced at their eager faces, each lit by the glow of hope. "I think we need to create a community task force. A way to protect our café dream and each other from any negativity Sinclair might throw our way." Nods of agreement rippled through the room. "What about social media?" someone suggested. "If Sinclair starts spreading rumors, we can use our platforms to share our truth." "Brilliant idea," Jake said. "We'll drown out his negativity with our positivity." An idea sparking from every corner of the room kept the momentum alive. They talked about organizing events, promoting kindness, and showcasing the café's community impact. Each plan felt like a brick laid in the foundation they were building together. Sarah could see it taking shape, a layered defense against whatever Sinclair might unleash. Yet, as they rallied and their energy soared, doubt lingered. Would they really be enough? "We have to remember, we're a community," Sarah said, her voice taking on a more serious tone. "And if we're going to do this, we need to stand united. No secrets, no backdoors. The collaboration felt like unlocking a treasure chest, their combined strengths shining brightly, casting away shadows of doubt. Hours passed in joy-filled planning until laughter echoed through the shop. Just as Sarah thought they found their stride, her phone buzzed, slicing through the air like a knife. Her heart sank as she read the message. It was from Sinclair, and his tone was chilling. "I hope you're ready for the storm. You think your little café will save you? Just wait." Fear gripped her heart once more. She glanced up at her friends, confidence wavered. What would they do now? The laughter turned into murmurs, caution creeping in. They had a plan, but the reality of Sinclair's threat loomed larger than they had imagined. What darkness was he capable of unleashing? And how would Sarah and her friends respond to the first strike of his cruel intentions? The atmosphere in the flower shop shifted palpably, laughter now replaced by a thick cloud of tension. Sarah could feel her heart racing, the words of Sinclair echoing in her mind like a haunting refrain. The enthusiasm that had filled the room just minutes ago was gradually being choked by fear and uncertainty. She looked around at her friends, their faces carrying a mixture of courage and hesitation. "Okay, let's not spiral," Jake said, his voice steadying the group. "What's our first move? We can't let this jerk throw us off course." "Right," Sarah replied, grounding herself in the moment. "We need to focus on our strengths. We'll amplify our message and reach out to the community. If Sinclair thinks he can intimidate us, he is sorely mistaken." Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her presence commanding. "Don't forget why we're doing this. This cafe isn't just a business, it's a lifeline for our community. We stand together." Encouraged by her words, Sarah rallied her thoughts. "Let's create a community event, an open house this Saturday. We'll invite everyone in, showcase what we stand for, and share our story. People love to support local businesses, especially when they feel connected to them." "Absolutely. We can showcase local artists, musicians, and even have food samples from our cafe. It'll be a celebration." Jake clapped his hands, enthusiasm returning to the group. As they brainstormed, the initial panic began to dissipate. They shared ideas, each building on the last until even Sarah felt a spark of hope igniting within her. They would turn Sinclair's threat into an opportunity. Nothing would be taken from them without a fight, yet, even as plans took shape, a nagging doubt pulled at her. Would it really be enough to counteract Sinclair's impending storm? The next few days blurred together as preparations ramped up. Sarah poured her heart into every detail of the event, pushing through the exhaustion that sat on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She felt the weight of her friends' faith in her, the collective energy fueling her resurgence. The laughter returned, vibrant and restored, filling the cafe with life, but the closer they got to the open house, the more Sarah's mind drifted to Sinclair. The thought of facing him kept her up at night, restless and questioning. What if he shows up? What if he disrupts everything we've worked for? She whispered to herself. The morning of the event dawned like an electric promise, the sky stretched wide and bright above her apartment. Sarah stood at the cafe's entrance, surveying the decorations and the setup. Her heart raced with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Friends and community members began to pour in, filling the space with laughter and love. Every smile felt like a victory, yet Sarah's eyes subconsciously scanned for the familiar face she dreaded seeing. As the open house filled up, she finally found a moment to breathe. The joy in the air was palpable, and as she moved through the crowd, she caught snippets of conversations brimming with support. It was everything she hoped for, but still, the shadow of doubt loomed over her. Then, as the celebration began to feel unstoppable, there he was. Sinclair, standing at the edge of the crowd, his gaze locked on her. Her breath caught in her throat. Was this the moment where everything would unravel? Or could she, backed by her community, stand strong against the man who had tried to break her? And just like that, Sarah felt the pulse of uncertainty ride through the space, her heart hammering fiercely. What would happen next? Could she really protect everything she had worked for? Sarah's heart raced like a frantic drum, each thump drowning out the vibrant sounds of laughter and music around her. Sinclair's presence felt like a storm cloud over her open house, darkening the joy that had just filled the café. The faces of her friends flickered in her peripheral vision, their expressions shifting from excitement to anxiety as they noticed him too. "Just keep smiling," Sarah whispered to herself, forcing a bright expression as she approached the edge of the crowd. "Don't show him fear." Sinclair stood tall, arms crossed, an unsettling grin dancing on his lips. He looked as if he relished the chaos he could create. Sarah swallowed hard, her throat tightening. What is he planning? She thought, shaking her head to clear it. "Sarah," Jake called, pulling her from her reverie. "What do you want us to do?" His clear blue eyes met hers, filled with a blend of determination and concern. She could feel the support radiating from him like a comforting embrace. "Let us keep the focus on the guests," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Let him watch. No one here is on his side." With renewed resolve, they plunged into the crowd, drawing people in with stories of resilience, laughter, and their love for the café. Sarah encouraged musicians to play their hearts out and artists to showcase their best works. The atmosphere brightened, warmth radiating through every interaction. Still, her gaze kept drifting back toward Sinclair. Each time their eyes met, a chill ran down her spine, and she felt her confidence flicker like a candle in the wind. Would he really disrupt everything? Just then, an elderly woman approached. Mrs. Jenkins, a longtime customer and a beloved fixture in the community, pulled Sarah aside. "Dear, I don't want to worry you, but I saw him talking to some folks outside. They looked agitated." Panic surged through Sarah. Why is he here? Her mind raced. What mischief could Sinclair be cooking up? "Stay focused on what matters," Mrs. Jenkins said gently. "These people are here for you, not him." Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped back into the crowd and raised her voice. "Thank you all for being here. This cafe is more than just a place for coffee. It's about community and support. Together, we can do anything." The crowd roared with applause, energy surging through her. Yet, beneath the smiles and cheers, she could still sense the darkness lurking. Sinclair was not just an obstacle, he embodied the very doubt she fought every day. As the event continued, she felt a shift. While the collective energy persisted, whispers began simmering in pockets around the cafe. Worried glances darted toward Sinclair, who was now engaged in conversation with a small group of her closest patrons. What was he telling them? Sarah's heart sank as she approached the group. They stood stiff, faces scrunched in critical conversation. She didn't need to hear the words to know he was feeding them skepticism. Was he undermining all her hard work? Her heart plummeted, but she wouldn't back down. "Excuse me," she said firmly, stepping forward. "Sinclair, what magic are you trying to weave here?" His icy stare sent a shiver down her spine, yet she stood her ground. His smile widened. "Just sharing the reality of the situation," he replied, his tone dripping with disdain. "Not everything is as bright as you'd like to imagine." Sarah took a calming breath, her voice steady but fierce. "The reality is this: our community believes in us. We stand together, and no amount of intimidation will shake our bond." Silence enveloped them, the tension coiling thick in the air. Would her words be enough? Was it time for a different kind of battle? As Sinclair's expression darkened, the crowd began to hush, the weight of the moment settling over them. Sarah felt the power of her truth behind her, but would it be strong enough to face whatever Sinclair had planned next? And then, from outside, she heard sirens wailing, growing louder. What was happening now? The crowd shifted, a wave of uncertainty rolling through it. Conversations faded, replaced by the wailing sirens echoing outside. Sarah's heart sped up again, this time fueled by fear. What was happening? Was Sinclair truly capable of something so drastic? "Stay close," Jake whispered, positioning himself next to her, his protective stance solid. Sinclair's smug grin transformed into a cold glare as he turned back to the window. The vibrant colors of the cafe seemed to drain away, leaving an oppressive air of unease. Sarah glanced at the faces around her. Some were worried, others confused, but none were willing to crumble. The community she had built was a fortress, yet here was Sinclair trying to breach its walls. The sound of heavy footsteps approached, and Sarah's gaze snapped to the front door as two uniformed officers entered, their expression serious. "We need to speak with a Sarah Jenkins," one of them said, scanning the crowd. Her name hung in the air like a smoke signal, and she stepped forward, fear clawing at her insides. "That's me. What is going on? Are you aware of any disturbances outside? We have reports of a potential threat." The officer's brow furrowed in concern. Sinclair feigned innocence. "Just a little friendly chat, right? Nothing to worry about, officer." "Sinclair, this isn't a game." Sarah spat, anger spilling over. "You can't just intrude like this. Intrude. I'm only trying to protect our little café." He shot back, his voice dripping with mockery. The officer cut through their back and forth. "We need to clear the area. Please, everyone remain calm as we assess the situation." The crowd murmured, tension crackling in the air. Sarah could feel her heart pounding louder than the sirens. This gathering was supposed to be a celebration, but now it felt like a dam about to burst. As people began to shuffle toward the exit, Sarah felt a weight settle in her chest. She had worked so hard to create this space a haven for laughter and creativity. Sinclair's cruel games threatened to rip it all away. "Listen up!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos, sure and fierce. The crowd gradually turned their attention back to her. "We're not leaving. This café is our home. And we're not letting fear decide for us." The officers exchanged glances, uncertain, while Sinclair's grin faltered slightly. "Do you really think you're in control here?" he whispered, stepping closer. "You've got everyone under some kind of spell, but the truth is coming sooner than you think." Instinctively, Sarah took a step back, her pulse racing. "What do you mean? Is this part of your plan? Do you think you can scare me?" Sinclair leaned in closer, his eyes dark and menacing. "Just wait. I'll show you how deep the roots of this café truly go." Before she could respond, a loud crash came from outside, shaking the very foundation of the café. Gasps erupted from everyone around her. Sarah turned, heart in her throat. What had Sinclair done? Now everyone was staring, unsure and anxious. The sound of shattering glass mixed with the sirens still ringing through the air, each moment agonizingly tense. "Hold on, everyone," she urged. "Stay together. Don't let him win." In that moment, she realized it wasn't just about fear, it was about something far greater. This was about standing unwavering when faced with darkness. Could she lead them through it? Was her bond with her community strong enough to fight against whatever Sinclair had unleashed? As she waited for the chaos to unfold around her, the weight of impending danger thickened in the air. What was behind that shattering sound? And what did Sinclair truly know that could turn her world upside down? The commotion outside spiraled into a whirlwind of confusion and dread. Shouts mingled with the continuous wail of sirens, creating a chaotic symphony that echoed through the café. Sarah felt her stomach drop as she locked eyes with Jake, whose face mirrored her fear but also his steadfast loyalty. "Stay strong," Jake urged, taking her hand in a firm grip. She felt the warmth of his support seep into her, empowering her to push through the chaos. People huddled together, whispering, eyes darting toward the door, but Sarah could sense the collective energy rising, the defiance against the darkness threatening their shared dream. "Together," she shouted, her voice piercing through the noise. "This café is about unity. We won't let fear tear us apart." The crowd, buzzing with uncertainty, began to rally. Their shared energy transformed panic into resolve. Every face now held a glimmer of hope, like stars breaking through the night sky. Sinclair's expression morphed from smug arrogance to something darker, more desperate. He realized his intimidation tactics were beginning to falter. That flicker of fear within the crowd? It was quickly replaced by fierce determination. Sarah, we can't let him manipulate us, Mrs. Thompson chimed in, stepping closer to the front. What's happening outside doesn't define what we're building in here. The familiar faces in the crowd echoed her sentiments, nodding in solidarity, lifting the weight of doubt that had threatened to crush Sarah's spirit. Suddenly, the front door swung open, and another officer stepped inside, his gaze firm. We need to keep the area safe. We've had reports of someone attacking property presumably related to your event. A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd, but this time it sounded different, more resolute. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. Sinclair planted himself forward, casting an ominous shadow across the room. Be careful. This is a new business. A petty café won't survive against real threats. But Sarah felt her voice tap into a wellspring of courage. False threats won't crumble our dreams. Look around. We are a family, and together, we are strong. We can make this café a beacon of hope. Let us show him we're not afraid. Shouted another voice, igniting flickers of excitement. The crowd exploded into a flurry of encouragement, feet pounding against the floor, a rhythmic heartbeat in opposition to Sinclair's distaste. As Sinclair's facade cracked, Sarah stepped forward, fueling the momentum. Think of the laughs shared here in our plans. Think of the community we are creating. Love, strength, and support cannot be torn apart by a single person attempting to sow fear. Sinclair narrowed his eyes, his countenance twisting with rage. You think you're building something? I'll have you all know. A loud explosion outside sent shockwaves through the café and halted Sinclair's words. The crowd gasped, spinning toward the front. Glass shattered, and a figure stumbled into the café, eyes wide with fear. They're smashing the windows. We need to get out. No. Sarah intervened, raising her hands. This is our home. We're staying united. Everyone, hold on to your courage. She turned to her friends, taking in their expressions, their determination stuffing the cracks in her heart where fear had seeped. We stay together. Protect one another. This is our moment. As the noise outside grew louder, people held their ground, forming a barrier around Sarah. The whispers escalated, but they were no longer rooted in fear, they surged with exclamation points, battling against Sinclair's dark intentions. Bring it on! Sarah shouted, ready to face whatever storm might come crashing through. We are Maplewood. We are a community. And together, we will prevail. The crowd echoed her sentiments, voices blending into a harmonious declaration of resilience. Laughter bubbled up again, sparked from the very fabric of their unity. The room seemed to glow with shared determination, and in that moment, Sarah felt a warmth enveloping her, love forged in the fires of adversity. Sinclair, outnumbered and outmatched, faltered. The weight of their collective will pressed against him, suffocating his darkness. As he stepped back, his bravado faltering, Sarah realized that together, they were more than just a café, they were the heart of Maplewood. Just then, fiery determination rolled through her like the first light of dawn. Each pulse of her heart beat with strength. Let us finish what we started. Today, this café will blossom, and we will look toward the future. With that, the crowd erupted into cheers, vibrant and victorious, chanting her name like a hymn, a beacon shimmering in the dusk as they pushed forward, fortified by the storm that had come to test them. In the face of uncertainty, a new path emerged, a route forged with the strength of unity. And as Sarah stepped forward, she knew this was only the beginning of a brighter future, one filled with laughter, resilience, and the café she had always dreamed of. The road ahead would be tough, but she wouldn't face it alone. A tapestry of great things woven together would soar through the town of Maplewood, unfurling with color and song, and as hope danced in the air like a brilliant sun breaking through the clouds, she smiled, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that like button now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. I want to know what you think. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real fans know the importance of supporting our community together.